Hey guys, what's up? Darcy here at 6 Strings 9 Lives. Back for episode 4 of 6 with 6 Strings. Today we're going to take a look at 6 random albums from my collection. Basically what I'm trying to accomplish with these episodes is just get you thinking about maybe albums that you haven't heard in a long time. Maybe you haven't heard them at all. And maybe thinking about what's your favorite from that band. These, out of the 6 I'll show you today, I would say 4 out of 6 are what I would call key albums from these certain bands' discography. And of course, we got our continuation from last episode. We're going to find out which band got to continue, and we'll go from there. But first off, I'm going to show you a very key album that came out from Canada's own Anvil in 1982, Metal on Metal. A very influential album to a lot of metal bands. And if you know the song Metal on Metal, you'll know what I'm talking about. One of the most iconic guitar riffs in the history of metal. There's the back cover. Just a great album. Their second album, I would say this and their third album, Forged in Fire, their fourth album, Strength of Steel. Just essential metal albums for sure. They had a lot of great albums. I mean, Anvil is Anvil. That's even the name of one of their titles of one of their albums. So what got me thinking about Anvil lately is I saw them, somebody showed them on a video, and they're also coming out with a brand new studio album here in 2020 called Legal at Last. And that's their 18th studio album, still plugging away. Key tracks on here, of course, the opener, Metal on Metal, Mothra, March of the Crabs, and another great track on here that I really enjoy called Stop Me. Definitely check out Canada's own Anvil, still plugging away after all these years. Next up is the band I showed you in the last, or my continuation band from last episode. I showed you the band's third album called Nuclear Fire. Today we're going to take a look at Primal Fear's 11th studio album called Rule Breaker, released in 2016 on Frontier Records. They've since now left Frontier Records, and their next album will be back with Nuclear Blast. I believe they did about 6 albums with Frontiers. Not sure why, maybe just a better deal, who knows. Really a good album. My favorite track on here is track 3, Bullets and Tears. Fantastic song. Check out Angels of Mercy, The End Is Near. Just a great album from Primal Fear. They haven't put out a bad album in my opinion. If you're into stuff like Accept, UDO, just stuff, anything like that, just a great German metal. And that's what it is to me, just metal. Great album. Next up, I'm going to show you a band that I was all over back in the day. And this album that I'm going to talk about came out in 1985. I actually saw them on this tour open for the next band I'm going to show you, but I won't give that away quite yet. And I pulled out my original cassette I said I would bring out some cassettes every now and then for these videos too. And here it is, Wasp, The Last Command. So this is Wasp's second album from released in 1985. I love this album. I know some people do talk about it maybe being a little too polished, but there's a couple of songs on here that are okay, but the rest is just, I love it. Wild Child, Ball Crusher, Widowmaker, I love that song. Blind in Texas. Yeah, my old original cassette still plays just fine. I do not have the original on CD. I'm okay with that. I do have the Snapper Classic reissue, which is fine with me, no problem. There's some bonus material on this. Just a great album from Wasp. This one is the last to feature Randy Piper on guitar before Blackie Lawless took over his natural position of guitar. And Johnny Rod came in on the next album to play bass. And this is the first album to feature Stephen Riley, the drummer. who was with Wasp only for a couple albums. But yeah, great stuff from Wasp. Next up is the band I was talking about that Wasp opened for. I got to see this tour in 1985. And yeah, and this might be one of those cases where the opening band, and not taking anything away from the headliner, because I maybe didn't know them as well, but I mean, Wasp crushed that show. But the band they opened for was Crocus. Not on this tour, it was actually on the Blitz tour, the album that came after this, but this is the album I wanted to show today. This is their 7th studio album. And really, overall, this is kind of where they finally got some serious recognition in North America. Just a monster of an album. This is the Rock Candy reissue. I do have the original here, and I'll say that the Rock Candy reissue does sound better. It's a little bit, just a little more clearer, like not as, what I'm trying to say is a little louder, and I don't know, just sounds better to me. Anyways, what a great album from Crocus. If you haven't heard songs like Headhunter, Eat the Rich, Screaming in the Night, awesome cover of Stayed Awake All Night. Yeah, definitely check out Crocus. They're kind of underrated. They never really broke it wide open in North America, but definitely worth your time. Their 2 previous albums to this were Hardware and One Vice at a Time. I think One Vice at a Time would be my second favorite Crocus album overall, this being the first. Yeah, definitely check out Crocus. Another one I pulled out a cassette for. This was a huge deal back in 1983 for me and a lot of people that were fans of this band. In 1982, they came out with an awesome album, heavy, called Creatures of the Night. So you know who I'm talking about now. But in 1983, it was announced that, hey, they're going to take off their makeup and go from there. And, you know, as a kid, I was always trying to, you know, buy magazines and stuff to see, oh, I want to see Gene Simmons' face or Paul Stanley. I don't know if you guys remember the one photo where I think he's coming out of a car. He had been dating Cher at the time, and he's got a kind of a scarf over his face. I was always looking for pictures of Kiss without makeup. And then to hear in 1983 that they would be taking off their makeup. And then, you know, you all know that video for Lick It Up, where it's basically a neck down shot until the song busts wide open and it shows everything. Fantastic. And I'm talking about none other than Lick It Up. Oh, what an album. Back in 83, I was so excited to see this video and finally see, you know, no disrespect to the others, but Gene and Paul were, you know, somebody I was like, oh yeah, what do they look like? I mean, you know, as a teenager, you're just always wondering, oh, that's so cool. And, you know, it's hard to describe that feeling, but I know a lot of you know that, especially if you're, you know, in my age range. Anyways, I do have the CD here too. Like I said, what a great album. Excuse me. Exciter. Love the song Not for the Innocent. Lick It Up, of course. Young and Wasted. All Hell's Breaking Loose. Track 9, Dance All Over Your Face. What a great album by Kiss. So I thought I'd definitely talk about that one. You know, we've got a little variety in here today. We got some little throwback to some of the 80s stuff, and like, yeah, why not, eh? Let's go. We're going to wrap this one up with an album. If you're a fan of, again, Accept, UDO, Victory, couple other bands that he's involved in, Hazard, Moondog. I'm talking about Herman Frank. This is his second studio album, released originally in 2012. When Herman Frank got his deal for his third album, When the Devil Rides Out, with AFM Records, they re-released his first two. This one, which is his second one, and his first one, Loyal to None. I'm telling you, if you are into this like I said, the Accept stuff, the UDO stuff. Check this out. Tracks like Right in Your Guts, that's the name of the album, by the way, Right in Your Guts. Check out the track Right in Your Guts. What's my other absolute favorite song on here? Raise Your Hand. Ivory Gate. Great stuff from German metal guitar hero Herman Frank. Like I said, released on AFM Records. So yeah, they were all, his third album was released in 2016, and they reissued his first two also in 2016. Definitely check out that. What else? I think that's it. We've covered off 6. Like I said, just something to talk about. 6 random albums. You know, let me know a few of your favorites of some of these bands. Or do you know some of these albums? Do you enjoy them? Just like that. And I guess that is about it for this episode. We'll, tune in for episode 5, and we'll see who kind of carried on from this group, and we'll go from there. And until next time, stay heavy.